How about this for a Wednesday, DA? Wake up, Phil Jackson's fired, and Chris Paul is now a member of the Rockets.
Yeah, well, it's another more indication of just, I think, the frenzied nature of the league now with, again, I think this is all based on Golden State, and you see everybody kind of scrambling to make deals and moves to try and keep up. And it leads to so much more activity, whether it's a team like the Knicks that wasn't getting any sniffs in free agency. Agents were not going to send their players there, so they knew they had to do something to change that equation to get in the game. Or a team like Houston that has a superstar in James Harden, but realizes even having a superstar in this era is not close to good enough to being able to compete for a championship. So everybody is, arming themselves as rapidly as possible.
DA, how does this Chris Paul trade change things for free agency in a couple of days? Does this, put the Clippers in a different situation in terms of who they pursue, or does it, shuffle the cards for the rest of the league because Chris Paul is now not available anymore in free agency?
Well, I think the does is, at least from the Clippers standpoint, they're hoping this helps them with Blake Griffin. I mean, I don't think it's any secret that the relationship between Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan was not great. It was workable, but it wasn't great. So now you've removed that. Instead of giving Chris Paul almost $200 million, you now have the opportunity to give Blake Griffin a max contract. And that doesn't mean that he won't take a visit to Boston or Miami or anybody else that's going to make a pitch for him. But I think that it certainly helps the Clippers in terms of potentially keeping him long term. Guys, it's funny. Guys want to play with other guys until they play with other guys. You know what I'm saying? Chris Paul, when he was in New Orleans, I'm doing it by myself. I need help. I got to go someplace where they give me help. Well, you got help. Well, I'm not sure I like it here either. So now, Blake will have a much more, I think, opportunity for things to go through him if he stays with the Clippers. So I think that's what they're hoping, at least. And so that would obviously have a ripple effect around the rest of the league.
DA, how much of Jerry West's influence or imprint do you think will be on this offseason for the Clippers?
Some, but I don't know that it's going to be, automatically felt that there will be some sort of adjustment period and getting to. But I really think Jerry is more for 2018, to be honest with you, and the recruitment of LeBron James, and the recruitment maybe of Paul George now. You got to think of that as a possibility now. That not having to do 3 max contracts, which they would have had to do if you re-sign Chris Paul and you re-sign Blake Griffin. You got 2 max deals already. You've got a near max, not a max deal, but a very lucrative contract for DeAndre Jordan. Well, now the Clippers are in a position where next year they can be a little more aggressive in free agency, and maybe they get into the Paul George sweepstakes. So I think that's where Jerry's influence will come into play more than anything else.
We've got David Aldridge joining us here live on the phone with Sekou Smith, Jared Greenberg, talking about the deal that would have Chris Paul sent to Houston. What's your take on how on and off the court Chris Paul and James Harden work together?
Well, I mean, look, they know each other, obviously, from international competition, Olympic team, world championship teams, all that sort of thing. And so they have a relationship, they have a friendship. I believe that James Harden was very willing to be the point guard this year and enjoyed the role. But I think we saw at the end of the playoffs how worn out he was by it. I just think he was worn out by it, almost literally worn out by it. And so I think his desire to get somebody who could take the ball handling responsibilities away from him so he could play more off the ball, do more of what he does with score. I think that the proof's in the pudding. Obviously, you don't make this deal without James Harden's not only blessing but encouragement. So, now James Harden will sign his long-term extension, I'm sure, in short fashion after this summer. After this year, Chris Paul will sign an extension there, and so You know, they'll be together for the next 3 to 5 years and see how far that they can go together.